All right, in this video, we're going to go through advanced settings in the software. So to get to your full settings screen, you go through System Administration and then Settings. You'll notice there's obviously quite a few here, some of which we already went over in the Settings Wizard video, but this is where you can change the settings from there. So under Hardware here, this is just where you set your receipt, report, and label printer driver. That was also done in the video on the settings wizard. Under serial printers here, you have options that'll apply either if you're using direct to COM1 or if you are using the system font with a USB receipt printer. Um, that allow either way, those both allow for more direct control. If you are not using one of those, if you're using just a USB printer driver in Windows with the non-system font, then these settings won't have any effect. You'll just leave them all off, and the printer driver will handle it. But this allows you to turn on your receipt cutter, have a logo at the top of the receipt, do a cash drawer, all that good stuff. Under additional hardware, these are pretty specific to if you have some additional pieces of hardware that are available. The CipherLab 8000 is our inventory batch scanner. And then there are different display polls that we support. For further information on those, contact sales. Under receipt, we get some options about how receipts look. So first, do you want to automatically print receipts? You can either always print them, never print them. It can have it ask if it wants to print them, or you can only print them when you do credit cards. We have different formats. The receipt is the one you're going to want most of the time. That's for a receipt printer. Full professional are meant for a LaserJet printer. In particular, the full professional is actually an invoice intended for mailing. Number of receipts is pretty self-explanatory. If you're using a USB receipt printer, you can select the font that you use. System, it works a little different. As said before, it works a lot more like Direct-to-Com1. It's just going to use the font that's built into the printer. The other five are different monospace fonts that you can use. They have to be monospace in order to allow for the numbers to all line up. So that is why uh, it's kind of a limited selection. It's just the ones that are commonly available. Um, you can adjust the font size. 8 is what you're usually going to want in order to fit it on your receipt. But if you have a larger or smaller receipt printer, you may be able to move that up or down. Repair disclaimer, if you're doing repair estimates, that prints at the bottom of each one to have your customer sign off on that they understand everything about the repair. The include discount information when you're doing each line item. If you have that checked, it's going to show any discounts you gave, any promotions that applied to the item. If you don't have it checked, it's just going to show the price that it sold for. And print customer balance. If the customer has an account balance that is not zero, either positive or negative, and this is checked, it will print on the receipt. Under notes under receipt, you get 10 lines that will appear at the bottom of each receipt. Usually this is return policy or that kind of thing. Under couponing, you get a space for a coupon that can appear at the bottom of receipts. These appear at the bottom of USB receipts in particular. They don't appear if you're using the system font or if you're using direct to Com1. You can have them in a different font size than the rest of your receipt. Your store information. At the top of your receipts, your company information here will appear. The first line is also on your labels for a lot of different designs. We went over that in the settings wizard video. Um, the hours of operation is mostly used for your different schedulers. It doesn't actually enforce, doesn't put on your receipt or anything, but it's mostly used if you do the labor scheduler or if you do customer scheduling. Finally here, remind me to make a backup. It will prompt you when you log in if you have not made a backup through the system in however long to make a backup and offer the option to take you to the screen to make one then and there. Register information. This is station specific information. Um, the most important, the ones you're most likely to want to change here are enable pop-up keyboard and numpad where available. If you have that checked anywhere you click or tap on your touchscreen, that's a text box that it's available. It will pop up a keyboard on screen for you to use. Open register on login just indicates that as soon as you log in, the register will automatically pop up without having to click register at the top. And your picture directory is where it's going to save any pictures you set in inventory. Your taxes, this is different tax related settings that you can change. Your tax rates appear here. If you need to change them, you need to add another one. Always round tax up to next penny. That enables doing different rounding techniques. Do not charge tax 1, tax 2, tax 3 on used items. Those are particular to a couple of provinces of Canada. Don't turn that on unless you're sure you should. Sales tax on full sales versus deduct trade-ins from sales for determining tax. Sales tax on full sales means if you sell something for 20 and then you do a $10 trade-in, you will charge sales tax on $20. Deduct trade-ins from sales means that in that case you would do sales tax on $10. Um, States are pretty evenly split on which way this needs to be done. You really want to ask a local accountant to make sure you're doing it right. Uh, Finally, for this video, um, used options are different pricing options and setups that you can do for doing your used and trade-in values. So the default is extended pricing, complete and incomplete, in which case in item maintenance, you will set use price 1, trade-in price 1, use price 2, trade-in price 2, and so on. If you switch to condition discounts, you will only set use price 1 and trade-in price 1, and then you can set percentages for A, B, C, D, E grading to deduct there. You can also do a flat difference between cash and credit for trade-ins. You can block accepting trade-ins from the cash customer to require your employees to set up a customer to take the trade from. And you can have the system suggest used whenever you sell a new copy if you have a used in stock. The reason to do that would be because usually used margins are higher, so you want to sell those used copies. That's going to be it for this half of the video. Coming back in the second half of this video, we'll go through the rest of the settings.